Hi, I'm Kim Holderness.
And I'm Penn Holderness.
And this is Asking for a Friend.
Everything you've ever wanted to know about ADHD.
Asking for a friend. I think my friend has ADHD. What are some of the signs that you might have ADHD?
ADHD is like snowflakes, like no two are alike. General signs that you look for are inability to maintain focus. Sometimes there's impulsivity or hyperactivity, non-kinetic interruptions, like when somebody is talking and then another person jumps in with something that doesn't seem to go with the flow of the conversation. The most important thing is whether these things present themselves consistently in at least more than one location, like home and at school. If you're just having problem in one place, that's probably not ADHD.
Girls and women can present as inattentive, and across the spectrum of ADHD, emotional dysregulation is also very common. So when you see a child get a little more upset than you think is appropriate, that could actually be linked to ADHD.
I have ADHD and no one in my family takes it seriously. They just think I'm disorganized. How can I get support from them? And how can I even start to talk to them about this?
What really is ADHD? It is a chemical condition where your prefrontal cortex does not distribute a chemical called dopamine efficiently. The more knowledge your family gets about that, the more they'll understand that you're not doing this to disrespect them. You're not doing this because you're a bad person. You're doing this because your executive functioning is taxed.
It's really hard because there's no blood test for this. There's no cast on your arm that you can show. I will say, as somebody who does not have ADHD, it was really eye-opening to learn. When too many tabs are open and his system gets overwhelmed, how many things just don't enter his working memory. He's hungry. He comes home. The keys immediately go in the fridge because he's focused on food. Keys have left his working memory.
I just got diagnosed with ADHD and I'm afraid to tell people at work. How do I manage this? I don't want people to think I'm incompetent. How do I get support at my job?
I would start by going to HR or your boss. I would say, I want to make the most out of my ability to perform here. You can ask for the ability to wear noise cancellation headphones or like have a fan or something that kind of deadens the noise around you and helps limit the distractions. Some kind of scheduled breaks, not to be in the cubicle that's right by the bathroom door or the exit or where people are walking by all the time.
The ADHD brain is more creative. They have done tests that prove they are the outside the box thinkers. Companies should want to hire people with ADHD.
What do I do when I feel frustrated with my partner who has ADHD? And how can I be more patient with them and support them?
And listen, ADHD is explanation. It's not an excuse, but I have learned that in that moment, piling on when he's already feeling shame was gasoline on the fire. So offering connection when things are going sideways instead of piling on, when emotions are more regulated, saying, okay, it looks like you've left your keys in the refrigerator or a cabinet every day this week. So maybe we have a bigger bowl, and now we have like a bigger bowl in the entryway to put keys. And something that's also worked, accentuating the positive. Everybody loves to be complimented. But when I start having a conversation with Penn and he closes the laptop, puts the phone away and squares his shoulder to me, I say, wow, thank you so much for focusing and really listening to me. Thank you. And he's like a puppy. He wants to hear that again. So he does it again.
What are some of your best tips for staying focused?
It's easiest to focus on something that is challenging, is new and exciting, and is of personal interest. Also, there's environmental factors. Temperature variance can make a big difference. Whether you're hungry or not can make a big difference. Whether you've gotten enough sleep makes a massive difference. So you've got to try to regulate your environment as well as you can if you have ADHD. Honestly, what really helps me focus is a list.
How do you gently suggest to a loved one that they might have ADHD?
Ooh, this has to be someone you love and you feel very safe with and who feels safe with you. And I love to lead with the positive. I would say, what I love about you is you're so creative and spontaneous and list all the things you love about him. I also have noticed that sometimes you have trouble focusing and you're interrupting me a lot and you struggle to complete tasks. Only a doctor can make a diagnosis. It's very important to know. You cannot go on the internet and check a bunch of boxes and get a diagnosis, no matter what TikTok tells you.
My friend has ADHD, but is really opposed to medication. What else could help them?
whether or not you are taking medicine, everyone should take part in what are called behavioral interventions. I do a ranking of what is bothering my wife the most, what concerns her the most, because my ADHD doesn't really bother me unless I'm doing something to endanger people around me, which I have done.
He left the stove on.
Yeah, I left the stove on. So that's like number one on my priority. I left the stove on and I left the house. So that was the first thing I worked on. I set a timer every time I turn a stove on. Whether I'm still burning the stove or not, the timer goes off. It's with me on my phone and I don't leave the stove on. She doesn't like it when I leave my keys in the car because someone could break into the car and open the garage door and break into our house. They also have ADHD coaches, and they can be personal coaches. They write books who specialize in this exact sort of behavioral intervention.
So if you could rename ADHD, what would you call it?
I would call it selective focus advantage. For a long time, it's existed with this disorder at the end. But if you've ever seen an ADHDer in the middle of hyperfocus, I'm sorry, as a non-ADHDer, I would pay money for that.
I would call it staccato. It's an Italian term for a type of piano playing that's very bouncy, full of energy, kind of all over the place, but dynamic and potentially lively.
But not everybody, some people are inattentive.
Well, dude, they're bald people named Harry. There are not everything has to be what it is.
I would call it, oh, look, a bird syndrome.
A squirrel, yeah, exactly.
Squirrel.
Look, a squirrel
Oh,
syndrome.
look, a squirrel.